We have one more. We have one more science to look at. And remember, on every one of your SAT tests, there will be two sciences, one with a table and one without. So we already did the one with science with table. This is science, no table. So that means we're going to have all the questions from the reading. So I want to give you the heads up on that one. Remember, we're practicing this fall 2022 practice test number 2. And this is a PSAT test. It has been released. It was actually released as an actual SAT test. So we know it's valid. We know that it's worth studying. Our science section is going to start at number 19. All right, so here's the first thing I want to tell you. And this isn't about science. It's about what to do next. We have been studying now. This is our 5th section. The studying doesn't end now. You won't go in and take the test and raise your score just from these past 5 videos. You have to continue to practice, and you have to make the way that you take the test exactly the way that we have practiced over the last few days. So all the strategies, it does require practice. It isn't a natural way for you to test. When I first, I think it was back in 2010, and one of my very dear friends invited me to come in and watch him tutor kids at Palm Harbor University to help them raise their scores. And when I sat back and watched him go through these 5 sections, I was amazed. I remember I thought I was going to go spend 2 hours at his house, and I stayed for the entire day. I was there for 8 hours, and I watched him work with 4 different kids. And then I went back the next day because I was just amazed at what I was watching. I want you to find like that sense of wonder, because your test has to include that sense of wonder. So I'm going to challenge you to continue taking practice tests in the reading now that we're done. So however you can find them, you can Google practice tests for SAT. This book is the book. It went everywhere with me. It was the biggest book in the world. And if you don't know what you're doing with it, I wouldn't even get it because it's so intimidating, but it's full of all these extra practice tests. And after that day where I was at my friend's house watching him tutor these kids and teach them these strategies, this book became like everywhere. It went everywhere with me. I sat in the car line waiting to pick up my son from kindergarten, taking tests, answering the questions, and then checking my answer to make sure that I was using the strategies correctly. And really deep down, I really wanted to just say, like, this can't be true. Like, he's making it look too easy. And every time I just got better about answering the questions, and I got faster about answering the questions. So I just want to reiterate that just because we've studied now together for this will be the day 5, that it doesn't mean you're ready to go jump in and take the test. It's still going to take some practice. But if you need practice, let me know in the comments. If you need additional practice, let me know. If you see me on campus, how I can help support you. Let me know what we can do so that you can continue to get the practice, so you can get the score that you deserve to get. All right, let's look at, oh boy, gut bacteria. Ooh, all right, science, no table. So that means all the questions are going to be directly from the reading. So we have to spend our time reading today. This passage is adapted from Ed Young. Gut bacteria allows insect pests to foil farmers. 2013 by National Geographic Society. We're going to read it. And remember, science, we're reading for hypothesis. Once you find the hypothesis, you're going to find everything. No science. Like, there's no science without a hypothesis, right? Because it's all about going through and finding the scientific method. So please make sure you mark it when you find the hypothesis. It's going, as we've gone over before, Oftentimes science just follows the scientific method. So it gives us what the problem is. It'll start to give us the hypothesis. It'll start to give us a little research design. We're going to get to know like what some of the findings were, and then we're going to find out what they're going to do next with it, because there's always a continuation of a research. And so if I really want you to read science thinking about that. All right, here's the introduction to the researchers. Here's the kind of problem that they're going through. Here's the hypothesis. Here's some of the design of the research. And then here's the findings. And then here's what they're doing next. Cool? All right, let's read. Lots of eggs, lots of bugs, lots of eggs, lots of bugs, lots of eggs. All right, I found the hypothesis on line 23. There are almost certain genetic differences that separate the rotation-resistant rootworms from their normal peers, but what are they? And then the interesting thing was, so they're really looking at the genetic differences that separate the rotation. They kind of said the rotation resistant females from the normal ones. So it was rotation resistant versus normal. So what are the genetic differences? And then it was interesting that they went in and they found all the reasons, all the like the null hypothesis, right? The results were inconclusive and they couldn't figure it out. And then they had to go in and they had to look at the actual gut bacteria and like see that the different gut bacteria was actually helping these rotation resistant varieties do something different than the normal ones. So, you know, there's two classifications of Western corn rootworms. Yeah, didn't need to know that, but interesting nonetheless, I suppose. Maybe someday that'll be a Jeopardy question that you get to answer correctly. Wouldn't that be fun? Okay. Over the course of the passage, the main focus shifts from, remember, we're narrowing down to 2. I was just taking notes down here. Those are just my notes of what I was reading. Over the course of the passage, the main focus shifts from a statement about the challenge posed by a particular insect to an indication of why that challenge was easy to overcome. I'm going to disagree with that one right off the bat. It wasn't easy to overcome. In fact, different scientists couldn't figure out why, so that wasn't easy to overcome. A summary of a once unexplained natural phenomenon. See that word again? They love that word phenomenon. They know you don't like it, but they love it. Summary of a once unexplained natural phenomenon to a biography of the scientists who researched that phenomenon. It wasn't a biography at all. Description of a problem affecting agriculture. Yeah. Rootworms. To an explanation of how scientists identified the cause of that problem. That was exactly the answer. Discussion about the scientific field to an anecdote showing how research is done in that field. An anecdote is a little tiny story they tell you. Usually it is a true story, and it just goes to prove a point. So a lot of times an anecdote is just a little story. Not to be confused with antidote, which is what Indiana Jones needs to find all the time to, ward off. They have antidotes to snake bites, to ward off anything that might poison you. I think there's something similar with The Princess Bride too, but I hope you've seen that movie. Anyway, an anecdote showing how research is done in that field. They didn't really go in and tell us a story about the research of the rootworms. So description of a problem affecting agriculture, very simply stated. Yes, this is a problem affecting agriculture. The rootworms are a problem affecting agriculture. To an explanation of how scientists identified the cause of that problem. That is the answer, and that's the answer we are going to look for to match with all the other ones. The statement zoology is ecology. Zoology is ecology. Two types of sciences, right? Okay. The statement zoology is ecology, line 6, mainly serves to. All right. Every other kid in the room is going to flip back to line 6 and reread it. Let's see if we can answer it without flipping back. Propose that 2 areas of scientific knowledge be merged. Maybe I'll keep it. Point out that knowledge obtained in one field of research will lead to expertise in another. Interesting. I don't like the word expertise. I don't like that word. If I had to get rid of it, I would get rid of it, but I still want to read a couple more because remember, we're narrowing down to 2. Assert a point about biological science that is supported by an example in the passage. Biology, zoology, ecology are close to biology. Assert a point about biological science that is supported by an example in the passage. I don't hate that one. Suggest that one field of scientific research has completely supplanted another. Supplanted means like it's taken over and gotten rid of the other one. You supplant something, you take it out and you put a new thing in. That just absolutely didn't happen. So again, if I'm going to narrow it down to 2, I'm going to get this one I don't like. I didn't feel like there was really any expert. Everybody's continuing to do more studies. So I don't feel like there was any expertise in another when we're looking at either zoology or ecology. If you want to look back, it's absolutely fine. If I'm going to narrow down, propose that 2 areas of scientific knowledge be merged, or assert a point about biological science. Those 2, biological science, that is supported by an example in the passage that actually happened in there. So C would be the answer for number 40. According to the passage, one similarity between the rotation-resistant rootworms and the normal rootworms is that you could actually answer that. You could answer that, a similarity between the rotation-resistant rootworms and normal rootworms. And again, if you did have to look back, remember that everything's going to follow the question order rule. We started off on line 6. I cut it off already. Line 6 there. We're definitely going somewhere between line 6 and line 23 to 30, line 23. So if you did have to look back, this is an example of how you could narrow yourself to go look back. Somewhere between line 6 and line 23, the answer for this one lies. I went too far back, so. And I just want to show you, it's really, it's too much really for me to look back, but I just want to show you somewhere between line 6 and line 23. So just in this paragraph. This is it. So we're just looking for the similarity between the, they both have underground larvae. Their life cycle depends on food. And I'm seeing lay eggs in cornfields. And they have to be hatched. It's the corn rootworm, so it has to have corn. Okay, anyway, that was just an example. When you do have to look back, how to use the numbers and the answers to figure out where to look back. Okay, according to the passage, one similarity between the rotation-resistant rootworms and normal rootworms is they reduce crop productivity by extracting nutrients from the soil. That actually was never talked about. They never talked about that, so we can't keep it. Produce larvae that feed on plant roots of crops. Yeah, I mean, isn't that exactly what we just read? Yeah. Adapt to crop rotation by maintaining high levels of enzymes in their guts. Not true of the normal, right? Contain the same quantity and composition of bacteria in their guts. They found that that was not the case. So yeah, they both produce larvae that feed on plant roots of crops. It was so simply stated, it just can't be wrong. I love those ones. Which choice most clearly provides information indicating how some rootworms have overcome farmers' efforts to eradicate them, getting rid of them. So how information indicating how some rootworms have overcome farmers' efforts to eradicate them. All right, on this one, of course, I'm going to use my question order rule. This starts at line 15, but on 43, we're looking at 23 through 35. And so what I need to do is see if I can get rid of any over here. I definitely can get rid of this one. And it goes till 35, so I can't get rid of that one. So right here goes till 35. And because it goes till 35, I can't get rid of C. However, this, it's 23 to 35. So I'm probably going to start down toward the bottom and work my way up. Only because, the next one is closer to 23 than 35. So we're looking for information indicating how some rootworms have overcome farmers' efforts to eradicate them. I'm going to start here, researchers to question. Overcome efforts to eradicate them. Okay. To point out, see. Rootworms have overcome farmers. Yeah, it's B. They're laying the eggs. Kind of gross. Kind of smart for one, but kind of gross. The central claim in the 4th paragraph, every other kid is going to look back. Can we please just try and get rid of 2 that we know don't make sense? Yeah, good. is this true? There was an extensive study of the rootworm's genes. It was insufficient to determine why some rootworms are rotation resistant. Interesting. Yeah. That's how they came up with the rotation resistant ones and the normal ones, because they needed to keep studying. So an extensive study of their genes was insufficient to determine why some rootworms are rotation resistant. And then the rest of the reading went on to talk about those continued studies, right? So I'm not going to get rid of A. The rootworm's ability to adapt to pest control methods is unique among insects. I do remember them talking about something else with other insects, but to tell you the truth, I don't think they were comparing them in their ability to adapt to pest control. I really do believe I would have remembered that. I do not believe that they talked about that. The genetic profile of rootworms is significantly more complex than researchers initially believed. No, there was two. There was normal, and then there was the other one. So there was only two. Our current understanding of genetics is inadequate. Our current understanding of genetics, we know a lot about genetics, is inadequate to allow researchers to understand why some rootworms are rotation resistant. That's just a silly thing. No. And so A is the answer. All right, most nearly means there's gonna be 9. We're looking for separate. Line 24, separate. We're gonna go back to line 24. We're going to there are certain genetic differences that pull out or I don't like that one. Are certain to are like distinctive, make them different. Distinguish, discharge is not. Extract, scatter, distinguish. According to the passage, the gut bacteria of rotation resistant rootworms, you know the answer to that. We don't have to read them. The gut bacteria of rotation resistant rootworms, you know the answer. Help rootworms survive in soybean crops. Yes. Are responsible for lowering the amount of cysteine. No, it's the opposite. This is bringing more of the cysteine protease. Making the rootworms less vulnerable to being killed by antibiotics is the opposite. Are transferred to larvae that hatch from the rootworm's eggs. I don't remember that, but I do know A is correct. They help the rootworms survive in soybean crops, because what they want to do is survive in the soybean crops so that the they can get to the corn. That's simple. Which choice provides the best evidence? So let's try to narrow it down. We left off last on lines 23 to 35 and then line 24. Of course, remember, most nearly means they're just going to throw them in. So 23 to 35. Oh, that means I can't get rid of any of those sharks. Okay, well then, here's what the strategy is I'm going to do. We're looking for best evidence for the previous question. I have 2 more questions to go. I'm almost to the end. My last question is the main idea of the last paragraph. See that? My last question is the main idea of the last paragraph. So very quickly, I'm actually going to, if the last paragraph contains line 54 to 55, then I'm going to start up here. Otherwise, I'm going to start at the bottom, because there's one more question, right? Yeah, this says stop. There's one more question. So I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up, because we're almost done. And so the questions are coming from the very end. Again, we're looking for the evidence to the previous question. What's the previous question? It is, according to the passage, the gut bacteria of rotation resistant rootworms are. No, I was right. So this is the last paragraph. Different microbes give resistant to those eventually in soybeans. We're looking the gut bacteria of resistant. That didn't answer the question. The gut bacteria of rotation-resistant rootworms are. Wait a minute, now that I reread it, I think I made a mistake. Hold on a second. I'm rereading this. I think I actually read it and then was like, yeah, okay. The gut bacteria of rotation-resistant rootworms. These different microbes give the resistant beetles an edge when eating soybeans. The different microbes, the gut bacteria of rotation-resistant rootworms have different microbes that give the resistant beetles an edge when eating soybeans. Sorry, that was the answer. Anyway, you got the point. We start at the bottom and work our way up. I just got excited about the strategy and forgot what I was looking for. I'm sorry, that was really dumb. Sorry. Okay, now the main idea of the last paragraph is to, again, we know it's science. Let's not look back. Cysteine protease are harmful to rootworms when present in large quantities of the body. That wasn't ever discussed. Eggs laid by rotation-resistant rootworms will hatch into crops of soybeans. Rotation-resistant rootworms will hatch into crops of soybeans. All right, we'll keep it. Bacteria unique to rotation-resistant rootworms allow them to digest soybeans. Okay, hatch or digest. Rotation-resistant rootworms do not digest soybeans using cysteine protease. Not true. Okay, so between these two, is it the bacteria unique to the rootworms allow them to digest them or to hatch in soybeans? Let's paragraph. Not digest. Bacteria unique to resistant. Bacteria were responsible for killing them with antibiotics. Drastically lower the system. Yeah. Eggs laid by mutation. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't B at all. It was C. Bacteria unique to them allowed them to digest soybeans. Okay. I think I kind of was distracted because I get excited about the strategies. So again, it's important now you understand the question order rule. You understand how to do most nearly means. You understand how to read these and predict what the questions are. And then when you're in the questions, you understand how to go back into the reading to quickly find the answer. All of these, and you understand what to do with passage 1 and passage 2. You also understand what to do with social sciences. You also understand that there's going to be 2 sciences, and one of them is going to be so much easier because it's mostly about the table. You understand how to read fiction and to only read it for internal conflict. Like, you're now reading the test differently. So you have to practice it. Otherwise, it just won't stick and your score won't go up. And you'll think I didn't teach you anything, and I know I did. So you have to practice. Come get more practice from me. Get this book, whatever it is. Keep practicing. Use these strategies. I promise you, I get text messages from kids almost, at least once a month of what their score improved to, and yours will do the same. Thank you for studying with me.